Hello, you lovely Hammers fans. Good morning. How are we all feeling today? Okay, I'm going to do a dust has settled one, as I said I was going to last night. I was keeping an eye on the live chat. I know what the general feeling is around West Ham. I know what it was like on the terraces. I've seen what it was like on the rest of social media. But for me, how I felt after the game yesterday, it was night and day, second half versus first half. Did I overreact? Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Before we do, though, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and don't forget, drop a like on the video. Okay, so I'm not going to go through it blow by blow again. We all know, everybody knows how wrong, desperately wrong, that Potter got it in that first half. And it's really, really concerning because that's with 17 days off, that's what he could conjure up against, one of the only teams that are below us in the table. And we weren't just beat in the first half. We were played off of that park. Completely and utterly played off the park. He did the same again. I mean, he's going to get credit. I did give him credit yesterday for changing it at half-time. He should have changed it way sooner than what he did. So upon re-review of that game, yes, I sat through it again. It was worse. It was far worse. I tried to watch it objectively. The first half, it was unbearable. I think the only player that I did give credit to, I didn't really give him credit. I don't acknowledge him. I don't see him on the pitch. Was James Ward-Prowse, but he was astronomically bad yesterday. He was terrible. But like I said, when him and Soucek play, typically, I block them out. I don't see them. I just kind of take it for granted that James Ward-Prowse is just going to do what James Ward-Prowse does and just kind of stand there and tick the ball over. He was shit. Really poor. So he shouldn't have come back out in that second half. Not a chance, because they were running through us. So the overarching theme from that first half was we had no midfield. Paqueta was holding the midfield by himself. Harry didn't get yellow carded. I don't know. He was the only one that was mobile. He was the only one that was getting a leg in. And I've seen some fan channels come out and say, well, I just think that Potter's pandered to the fan base. You wanted Guilherme. Nobody wanted Guilherme in central midfield. You might as well have put him in goal. What does that prove? We needed to play. It's like Ferguson as well. Ferguson, he missed a sitter. But Ferguson in the first half, he was feeding off scraps as well. There were moments where he was chasing and pressing in the first half, but it was thankless. It was a typical, we were so deep and it was so slow and it was so laborious. Had Ferguson played the second half, he would have had a better game. Fulkrug was an improvement, but the way that we played was an improvement. So, like I've already said, that first half was a travesty. It can't be explained at all what he was trying to do, which is a real concern for a Premier League manager on $5 million a year. I mean, that is fucked, really, that he can get it that wrong. I don't know any West Ham fan that weren't confused by that lineup. Now, there was some excitement because Soucek was out and Guilherme and Ferguson was in. Yeah, that, but everyone I know that I spoke to was looking at that team going, what is that? What has he done? We could see the gaps. To have Mavropanos and Cresswell with no defensive midfield cover was suicide, and they ran straight through the middle of us, straight through, time after time after time. They pressed us high. Well, I say they pressed us high. We just sat deep. That's all we did. We just tried to do potable. Potable is time wasting. It's knocking the ball about in your own defensive third, really slowing the game down, looking and waiting to engineer a little bit of space for someone like a Max Kilman to hit a long diagonal. That's potable. That's it. Well, the opposition, they ain't always going to let you do it. I don't think Everton did to a degree. We did manage to get a result there, got a draw. But Wolves certainly didn't. They just pressed us high and we were rattled to shit. And I stick by what I said yesterday. We keep on criticising a lot of our defenders. The goalkeeper, they're not good enough with their feet. Well, then why are we playing that way? Why are we playing that way? I don't like that style of football anyway. I hate gambling in your own defensive third. It's pointless. Bait in the press. I mean, we weren't going to go anywhere anyway. We had literally fuck all. And also, one thing that I did pick up on that game yesterday, which I'm going to stick with, Kudus has been getting pelters. He's been getting smashed. He's not the same. He's not this. Now you can see the team that he's operating in. And now you can see how we've managed to progress our way up the pitch, playing this pot away. Because Kudus comes back, picks that ball up and carries it up the field. Without him there, we could not get out. So the second half, it wasn't enough. The changes weren't enough either. James Ward-Prowse should not have been back in that team. He should not have come back out. The guy was a ghost in the first half. He was a ghost in the second half. He did one thing that I half enjoyed, and that was getting into a bit of a tussle with one of their players. I can't think which one. But that was it. He was useless. Rubbish. How Alvarez was on the bench, how Todibo was on the bench, Fulkrug, I'm not neither here nor there. He was definitely better than Ferguson in the first half, but we played differently in the second half. Now, I've seen people come out and say, the only reason that we was better in the second half is because Wolves sat back in their own... Watch it back. I've watched it back. We literally started high as fuck. The defensive line went up, Areola went up, and we was pressing aggressively from midfield to attack. And that all of a sudden, Wolves had a game on their hands. We altered their game plan. They decided to sink back and sit into a block because they could see that we was coming out looking for a goal. That is what happened. Did they end up settling into a block? Yes, but we forced them back and we penned them back in. That is what happened. Did we create anything in the second half? No. So that's a concern. But it was night and day. The first half, management and performance weren't even championship level. It really weren't. There can be no mitigation, no excuses made for what he did in that first half. And all he did in the second half was probably what any sane-minded football fan would have done. We went to Fore at the back with a conventional midfield with an actual CDM, one CDM, and people in their normal positions. I mean, in the time that Potter's been here, I think he's almost relied so heavily on the likes of Kudus and a few of our better players. He's been fucking around too much. The amount of players being played out of position so that he can try and get this fucking weird Potterball system working is bizarre. Bowen's never been played in position. He's been crap since Potter's been in. Let's have it straight. He has been. Still gives 100% effort, but he's been crap because he can't play all over the pitch in every different role the same way. He's a very particular type of player. Kudus hasn't been effective, but still, you've got to have him rather than not have him if you're going to play like that, because it gives you something at least. So there's no mitigation for it. So what I was so happy about yesterday, and I do think I went overboard with the second half performance, because when you look at it, that was no more than what we should expect in the second half. Away from home, that was no more than what we should expect. In fact, we probably should have expected a little bit more. I do make a lot of the comments right. We didn't create enough. Nowhere near. I know they were sitting deep, and I know they were blocking, and I know that they were very good defensively, but we should have carved out a few more opportunities. We got into some good areas. That's one thing I will say. Some good wide areas for crossing opportunities and stuff like that. But the quality of the final ball was dreadful from wide areas. We weren't getting the supply into Fulkrug. In fact, that header that Fulkrug crashed off the bar, he had no right to even do that. I don't even know how he did it. It was a shit cross, and he managed to sort of, I don't know, just double back and get so much power in that header off the bar, and then Emerson tries the Di Canio, that bloke behind me. You ain't no Di Canio, Emerson. He had just come on the pitch, though. And then Souček missed a sitter as well. Ferguson missed a sitter. So there were some big chances for us, but not as many as them. They should have been 4 or 5 in the first half. So on the balance of the game, the right team won because they easily blitzed us in the first half, created so many chances, hit the crossbar, Areola, great save. The better team won. And that's a concern, really, when you look at it. This is a team that are 17th in the league. They're now 5 points below us. They're one of only 5 teams below us. 4. One of only 4 teams below us. And they was missing their star player. People, you listen to any review that people have been calling Wolves a one-man team, couldn't you? Well, Jesus Christ, what does that make us? Because they seem to have more pace, more guile, more technical ability than us, and it does come down to coaching because Pereira's come into this team at the same time as Potter, and all I keep hearing is, and we saw how woeful Wolves were. They were every bit as bad as West Ham. Pereira's come in. Not only has he sorted them out defensively, they know how to attack. They know how to score. he's transformed the way that they play. They'll probably climb a few places. If they play like that, they will. The fact is, since Potter's come in, all he's managed to do is crowd 8 players, 8 bodies in front of our goal to try and stem the flow of goals. That's been the limit of his coaching. And he's been getting credit for it. Not from me. We've got worse. I'd say we've got worse since Lopetegui went. Yes, we had a few games before Lopetegui went against City and Liverpool where we got some batterings. But we've actually got worse. And we were shit under Lopetegui. This guy is not a good coach. He's not. He looks confused. That first half performance for me has sealed it as far as I'm concerned. You can say I'm going too soon. And this ain't me going, Potter out, Potter out. But you know what? We ain't doing nothing with this man. He is rubbish. I thought he was rubbish. And all he's doing is proving to me that he's worse than what I thought he was. Because I had it in my head that he was tactically astute, purely based off the fact that he used to out-tactic David Moyes whenever we played Brighton. I never liked his style of football, but he seems to be able to shuffle the pieces better than what Moyes could, and he always outdone him. So I thought he was tactically astute. Well, I was fucking wrong. He is not. He's like a rabbit in the headlights. He doesn't know what he's doing. He talks bollocks in press conferences. You know, he lies, he waffles. His football is a travesty. He's going to lose that team before the end of the season as well, because it's all very well Potter being all about well-being and fucking, you know, deep breathing and cuddling and mantras and stuff like that. These are competitive sportsmen that want to go out and win things. And like every West Ham fan, before kickoff with that game yesterday, every single West Ham player in that team, because they know football better than us, don't forget. They know. They would have looked at that lineup and looked at themselves and gone, what the fuck is this? What is he doing? You know, listen to his game preparation and stuff like that. They will be more than questioning him now. I mean, look at the difference when Alvarez came on. We had a presence in midfield all of a sudden with Paqueta. Paqueta weren't on his own. How James Ward-Prowse stayed on the pitch for so long, I don't know. When you look at the effect that Souček had on the game, I wouldn't have had Souček start either. I would have had Soler yesterday, because what my midfield three would have been Alvarez at the base where he was in the second half with Paqueta and Kudus. But there was no Kudus, so it would have been Paqueta and Soler in central midfield. We didn't get what we asked for. You wanted Guillaume, you wanted... That's not what anyone asked for. Like I said, we want to see Potts, but you might as well bring Potts in and throw him in goal. See how he does. Well, you wanted Potts. I know he let in 6 goals. That's not Guillaume's position. We should use his pace. That's his asset. So it should have been a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. Like I've said so many times. And if you'd have played that midfield, like with a back four of... Mavropanos didn't really do too much wrong. The only thing that he did wrong was brought on by the stupid way that we are insisting on playing when we've got non-technical goalkeepers and defenders, and we're forcing them to try and knock the ball about at the back in the Premier League, where they've all clocked on. All the opponents have clocked on. We can't do it. I don't want to see us play that way anyway. It's disgusting. I can't stand it. It's old-fashioned now. That style of football, we've jumped on board with Pep Ball when it's expired. It's dead. You've got to have world-class players to be even considering playing that way. Well, we ain't going to have... We've got a few world-class players now. We're going to have none next season. So he's got to bin that style of football if he's still here. Do you know something, though? I pray that he's not. I do, honestly. This guy's fucking useless. He's useless. I hope that either he identifies, yeah, I'm out of my depth here, I'm going to go, and they come to some agreement. I hope he's got a KPI in his contract, because don't forget, we was 13th when he come in. We're going to be 17th. Wolves are 5 points below us. They won't be for long. But before the end of the season, we'll be 17th. We won't go down. So I'm hoping there's a KPI in there that they can trigger and basically fuck him off. And I think go again. Because are you not terrified that that man that's managing this team the way that he's managed it, that's making us get progressively worse as a football team, unless he just puts 8 bodies in front of the goal, is going to be tasked with the biggest rebuild, I think, in our history, which will be us losing Paqueta, Kudus, Alvarez, taking that money and then being tasked with going out and reinvesting it to build a team in his vision. Do you want his vision? No, I don't think anyone does. Sullivan certainly didn't. He didn't want him to come in. There's a few things where you know, you've got to, I suppose you've got to agree with Sullivan. He said that Potter, this was apparently one of his quotes, Potter was just a product of a brilliant Brighton machine. You know, nobody fouls at Brighton. He was concerned about bringing him in, right? Basically thought, well, I don't think he'll ever see a Brighton manager foul. They're just props. They just put the team out. That's all they do. But he can't even fucking do that. He can't even put a team out. So no, for me, I don't want him here next season. I'm not going to be banging the drum saying Potter out, because what's the point? But is it embarrassing to roll the dice again? Yeah, but no more embarrassing than having a team that play football like that. That's embarrassing. That is fucking embarrassing. It ain't our fault they can't recruit a manager. It's not our fault as a fan base. They can't recruit, not even an attacking or a defensive manager, just a fucking competent manager. They landed on Moyes, who fell to pieces towards the end. We almost got relegated with Moyes. It was shit in the last season. The Lopetegui experiment was terrible. I mean, this is awful. If they can't do it, why can't they go out and get some sort of third-party consultancy to help them? Even if they don't want to directly employ a director of football, why can't they go out and get someone to basically build them a roadmap and identify some players? Because they are fucking useless. This is the Premier League. It is fine margins. You can't get away with this stuff. You can't. I'm telling you now, Potter ain't a Premier League manager. He ain't an England manager either. You know, I'll make comparisons to Southgate. I think that's discrediting Southgate. It's shit. Potter's shit. If you can make an excuse for what he's done on the whole since he's been in with some of his team selections, but particularly with what he did there, what he did against Newcastle, what he did there, what he did against Leicester, what he did in the second half against Everton, where he was going to make changes and he didn't. Thought he'd try and do what Wolves did, sit on a fucking 1-goal lead. So he couldn't even do that. Pereira could. Yeah. We stick with Potter, we're at risk of getting relegated next year. I'm convinced of it. So, yeah, I hope there's a KPI, because he ain't going to meet whatever the standards are in that contract if there is a KPI clause. And I hope they fucking sack him and get rid of him. And we go again. And yes, they might get it wrong again. I don't know. It can't be any more wrong than that. It can't be. Because even Lopetegui, who was a disaster in certain games, we're lucky Lopetegui got 24 points. He got the lion's share of the points this season. So as bad as Loppy was, we're lucky he came in before Potter. We'd have been relegated. So look, anyway, that's it from me. It is, I'm sticking to my guns. The second half was night and day, way better, a much better performance, far more intensity, players in their correct positions, but no craft against a Wolves team that were defending very well. But we could and should have done an awful lot more with the dangerous moments that we had, particularly in wide areas. The quality into the box was shit. But the application was there. The players that came onto the pitch, Soler, Alvarez, it made a difference in midfield, a huge difference. But it weren't perfect, what he did in the second half. It was positive because he fixed some of the issues, but not all of them. Hence, we lost 1-0 against one of the 4 teams that are below us in the league table, who was without their star player. You can't make an excuse for it. Anyway, look, that is it from me. Fuck it. Potter out. There you go. I want him gone. I don't like the geezer. I think he's full of shit, and I think he's a useless manager. Fuck off, Potter.